how many families applied and how did you choose?
If you count the 3 founding families, it's 72 families.
Honestly, it was very self-selective, if you think about it, because by the time they got past the first and the second interview, we never had to say no.
So if it's like bigger decisions that like impact the whole community, change the nature of the project, then we have to go by consensus, where you have like 3 ways of voting. You can vote agree, yes, it's fine. You can stand aside. I'm not the biggest supporter of this, but you will not stand in the way of the community doing it. The last one is blocking suggested decision. And blocking is like a pretty serious matter, because if just one family blocked a suggestion, then we have to drop it.
I remember I was just online one night. It was like midnight, and I was like, how do I travel alone with a toddler? And I was like Googling, and then all of a sudden this came up. And it was like, whoa, this is like perfect.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Traveling Village podcast. I'm here with Nikolaj and Kiran. Nikolaj is a founding member of the Traveling Village. Kiran is one of the founding families, and he's no longer a special guest. He's a permanent member of this podcast.
Yeah, I was pretty good on the last one, right?
He was so good. We had to have him back.
I had to be back.
Yeah.
Actually, I begged them to come back. I was like, please, take me back.
So we wanted to start today with just like highs and lows of this week. Do one of you guys want to start?
Yeah, sure. I think my high was at our last communal meal. We had our artist, Min, who were at our very first meal to do like an artwork. It was like painting live, and all of the kids were running around, and it was very special. And the last few weeks, he's been like continuing on the artwork. And at the last meal, he went and revealed the artwork, and it was like, just as you know, like it was covered, and he was... He had a small speech and stuff like that, and I actually saw a few people get like emotional, and all of the families got like their own copy, like a printed copy, printed on like a traditional Vietnamese paper and stuff like that. So that was definitely, I think, my high of the week.
Who gets the original copy?
I bought the original copy for our apartment back home in Denmark. Yeah.
It's super cool because it captured one of the first moments we all got together.
Yeah.
And then to have it unveiled toward the end of our trip, it was really special for a lot of us.
Yeah. And with lows, I think my low is probably that in 2 days we have another meal where the venue just fell through today. Like they canceled, and now it's like the holidays here because of the New Year. So that's a bit annoying that we have a meal coming up in 2 days, and there's a lot of work with that. And we were just starting to feel that now it's planned. We have a game plan. And now it like fell through, and it's really difficult to plan something new because of the holidays. So that's life. What about you?
Yeah, we learned a lot from your communal group, because I'm in the next one. So I'm in the Thailand communal working group.
Yeah.
So we're looking at what everyone did here, and I'm like, okay, we're going to change this. We'll see what actually happens once we get to Thailand. But I am hopeful that it'll be a little easier, because they've had it really hard in Vietnam.
And do you decide when you get there, then you start scoping out venues? Is that how you're doing it?
So that's what they did, but it was just too. It was too.
Yeah, I think I think that's one of the challenges with work groups. Like work groups have like 3 to 6 people in, so it's also like a lot of different strategies and opinions. So I think that some people feel like we should do research before, like online calls with venues. Some say, we're just going to rent a scooter and drive around. And then, that's one of the challenges with work groups, is like coordinating the strategy, deciding how are we actually going to do it, who does what. So I think there's been a lot of lessons here in Vietnam doing that.
Yeah, I'll go next, because I had some highs and lows as well. One of my highs was actually not with the whole village, but it was with a little splinter group. So me, our family, and 2 others, including you. Yeah, you were there. We went to Hue, and that was very special for me. So I thought being able to be part of a community, but also split up and then do our own thing for a couple of days, it just recharged my batteries and helped me feel close to Vietnam. My favorite Buddhist monk is from here, so that was really nice.
Thich Nhat Hanh.
Yeah.
I got it.
Thich Nhat Hanh.
Yeah.
Awesome guy. And we visited his birth monastery, and he ended up in his final resting place as well. So it was very special.
And you had a breathwork session there for us too, which was very cool.
Yeah. Mindfulness.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah. And it's a nice way to connect with just a few people, right? Over a longer time.
Yeah. I've actually found connecting with people one-on-one is
That's the way
that's
to
what
go.
I love about the village. Yeah. And like the bigger meetings are a little stressful, right? Like when we had a communal working group meeting this morning, and that was a bit stressful to have 6 people all trying to decide on logistics. I feel like we do all of that difficult work so that we can have the one-on-one, 2 families kind of meet and vibe and all that stuff. So yeah, that was kind of the high point. And yeah, I just feel like,
I think it's so cool that you can do, because we're so many people, like there's like no fixed schedule. There's nothing you have to do, so a small group can like branch out, do their own thing for a few days. And like it's just fine. If we were just a few families, that would probably be like more difficult.
you didn't miss me when I was gone.
I missed you a lot. But
He cried a couple times.
yeah, I cried. It was difficult to sleep. Oh, man.
But dude, I think my low point is our housing in Kyoto.
Yeah.
So that's been it's been annoying to have to deal with our own individual family accommodations, but then also trying to coordinate with other people.
Can you tell what happened with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's something with like, we went through an agency and then the people who actually own the place, they delisted the house.
So you basically, your thing fell through.
Yeah, that fell through.
So
they got us another place, but it's very far from everyone. So we're trying to figure out if we can live with other people or what the situation is like in Kyoto. So that's a little bit stressful because it's just logistical. And it comes with dealing with money and having to coordinate stuff. And that just gets messy. So but we'll work through it. I'm not too worried, but it's kind of a low light for me. For you?
let's see. My highlight, I would say, was our last communal meal dinner. And it was towards the end of the night. And everyone just was sticking around because everyone was having such a great time. And a lot of the dads kind of started playing like tag, or I don't even know what it was, something like that. What would you call that? Like
they were like carrying the kids and like
airplane, like
yeah, exactly.
And so, but they weren't even necessarily carrying their own kids. They were just carrying other kids around.
Just some kid.
Just some random kid. And
Pick a kid, turn them into an airplane.
yeah, and everyone was laughing and having so much fun. And you could see the trust building between all the community members, you know, and the kids trusting the adults and getting to know them more. And it really at that point for me felt like, wow, this is actually a village, you know, this is a community. That was cool. My low point, I would say, what's been challenging for me is that there's so many things I want to do, both, visiting things, socially and all of that. But my little guy is not even 2 yet. And so it's been kind of going back and forth. Like, do I go and I socialize and I miss his nap? Or do I stay in, miss this event, and he's in a way better mood because he had a nap? So I'm kind of going back and forth. I haven't quite figured out how to do that yet. And so I'm still navigating that situation. So I'm right at this point, I'm doing nap one day, no nap the next day. And yeah.
Oh God. How's that work? That seems like...
It's not great. Yeah.
We did the same thing where we tried to push my kids' bedtime by like a couple hours to see a show. And that did not go well.
Yeah.
The week was just like adjusting her schedule back.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think for a lot of the families here, it's not full of balance
Yeah.
to be here but it's not maybe a bad thing. I think it's just because we're trying to do so much at the same time. We are all with our kids full time, some are working, and there's so much community, so many things to see. We are here in a limited period. So I think, it's still better, but it's not because we haven't really found the solution for the perfect family balance. So, but that's something that I struggle with, finding the balance.
I don't think we're going to find that in the full traveling village, but I feel like that's something everyone is dealing with, like in the entire world almost, right? Like, how do you balance working?
Yeah. Although I am wondering if in Thailand it might be different because it's a beach town, right? So it might not be as much to do, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, it might be different. We'll see.
And I think the whole thing is like a learning process. And then when we get back home, we can decide like what worked and what didn't. And maybe, for like a further version, like a next version of the village, you would probably specify more. Are we doing this because we want to try to achieve a better work-life balance, or are we doing it to have like an adventure of a lifetime? And I think we'll get that, but we'll probably not get like a super, super good balance in the 4 months. And I think when I come back home, I will need like to relax a little bit, But it's still been, incredible. And
Okay, so talking about that, so we've actually had a lot of questions come up since the last podcast. And so I wanted to dig into a bunch of those for a little bit. One of them, you just mentioned future potential traveling village. Is there a traveling village number 2?
Yeah, I personally hope so, of course, because at least for me personally, this project is so connected with my values and our lifestyle back home and our dreams. So my idea the whole time has been like that this should be like a longer project, but we also just decided as a family that we want to do this one trip, these 4 months, and just be totally 100% here. It's all in on this trip, and we want to, that there could be a risk that it's a once in a lifetime thing. And so that's kind of our mindset. And you could decide on doing a number 2 based on like a conceptual level that, there's some good feedback here. There's people who wants to join. Yes, we should go ahead. But it's so connected with how we're thriving as a family. So we will have to gain some experience in the next few months before we decide, like, at least for my family, do we want to do one more? And how will that look? So my biggest dream is that for my family, this will be like maybe a decade-long project, like a 10-year project where we're going to do a lot of different community traveling, village projects, but we will see how it will work out.
Yeah.
I don't know about.
And there was a lot of friction with this first one, right? Because nothing like it existed. When doing a quick Google, Nikolaj's WordPress site was the only thing that had like, a bunch of families are self-organizing and going out. So I think Traveling Village 2, one, it would be amazing if a lot of the people in the village continue on thinking about traveling and community and are able to combine that. But 2, I think you're going to see more and more of these in the world, just because what we're doing here has made it more likely for, more instances of this.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. We've lowered the barrier going forward, so I hope to see more. And I think we'll be a part of that for a long time as well. Like I could see me and Nritya kind of working through things for like the next 5-10 years in these village settings. It is challenging. Like we need a lot of energy for this first one, and we prepared for a whole year to do this. So I'm hoping the next few ones are easier. But
that's the thing. Should it be like easier? Because I also think that all of the 4 founding families are what I would call like builders, like people who like to build stuff and learn new stuff and create things. And for me, at least, it's been so cool to have that learning process through a year and create something where we actually started out like, can we make this work?
Yeah.
Logistically, can we even get 20 families? Is it too many people? Can it, logistically work? And then we like figured things out. And now we figured things out and it's kind of working. But what's going to be the big learning process in village number 2? Is it just going to be a nice trip to be on? Because I think personally, I would love to have some kind of similar personal development journey throughout that process. So I think probably, village 2 would look a little bit different.
You don't want to make things easy on yourself, right?
Yeah, and,
making it difficult brought out really cool people. That's the difficult part. Everyone in the village is so cool because we made it challenging. And so there is a feeling, I shared this with you too, where like, if we make it super easy and it's a planned trip, you're going to get totally different people who don't gel and vibe with each other the same way we do.
And the problem is, if you make it easy, I think there's a risk that the founding families or the people arranging it will be more like a service provider, and they will be the arranger of the trip, and it will be less a community. So, and that's like one of the decisions you would have to take is, do you want to go in that direction, or do you want to go more in the community direction? maybe more requirements for involvement and stuff like that? Or do we want to say, okay, we figured so many things out, so now we're just going to have this package, we're going to create this trip, but then it's more like a business. And right now it's a non-profit, it's a community project where we're all trying to learn something. So when we come back home, we can take more conscious decisions on like how we're living. So I think, that's two very different directions. And I'm definitely leaning more towards going more in adventure and community than making this into a business. But I think if you just want to do exactly the same things, maybe even in some of the same kind of locations, it's more like a business,
Yeah.
because it would, as you say, attract maybe different kind of people. Here we actually had people who have been a part of the project for a whole year, and maybe they didn't do a lot of work, but they went through a lot of confusion and a lot of Google Sheets and stuff like that. So, and that's super cool to have those kind of people because they arrange stuff and they're positive and proactive and
So many Google Sheets.
It's insane. Yeah.
One of the things we had talked about this week, actually, you had mentioned something about if there was a second traveling village, you would want almost different age ranges, like people in different stages of life. Which I think is interesting.
That's one of the things. If I were right now to do a second one and I would do some things differently, like we're calling it a village, but we are only families with kids, like kids that live at home. But a village is, retired people, it's students, it's like different people. Yeah. So that could be like one idea to expand the village a little bit. So you maybe had like 20 families still, but you expanded with a bunch of older people and maybe some young people too, and stuff like that to make, to change the dynamics and, to also, I think if you're doing the community direction, you also have to design some things that makes things more difficult, because that's how we learn and take decisions and stuff like that. So I think that would make the project more complex, and that I think is a good thing.
So now that we're on this topic, I'm actually curious. Can you let everyone know the demographics of our traveling village? Age range, where people are from, what type of work they do, are they digital nomads, that type of thing?
I think it's very varied. Like we have 34 kids, ranging from 1 year old to 14 years old, and we were pretty mindful about like having 13 maybe having like age brackets so there was like a good bunch of kids in every bracket. And I think we
1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, right? We had around 5 to 10 kids in each of those.
Yeah,
and just so they could make friends, and it's not a bunch of toddlers and then like 1 14-year-old.
Yeah, I remember when a couple of the families had dropped out, you had saved a room for certain ages.
Yeah, because there was a concern because we had some families still in the project with older kids, and they were saying like, okay, now my 13-year-old kid is going to join this trip for 4 months, but the next is like 10 years old. And those years, it just means a lot. Like it's a big difference. So I think it kind of worked out. And again, I really think that's the power of being 20 families and not 5 families. But I think I stressed that point.
And countries where people from?
I think we have 8 families from Denmark.
6. I think
6 families from Denmark, 8 Americans. I just remember the number 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would say a handful of families from Denmark, handful from America. I consider our family India/America. So
one Netherlands.
Netherlands, Italy.
It depends a little bit because people are so global. So some are like born in one place, but they live their life in another. I think we have 6 or 7 different nationalities.
Yeah.
And are a lot of people digital nomads? Like, how are people doing this? Or what have you found?
I wouldn't call them, I don't think I've met a single true digital nomads where they've, I think there's 2 or 3 families now that I think about it. They're digital nomads where they are able to, they've been traveling a lot and they don't have like a home base. So they're working where they travel. One family is not working and they're digital nomads now.
It's kind of like there's there's a few families who are traveling full time, and this is just like a part of their continuous traveling. Then you have a bunch of families like my own, where they have maybe traveled a lot before, or they do like 4 to 6 months trips, and then they're back home. Or we also have some families who have, this is kind of their first bigger trip. So it's kind of a fun mix.
How are people educating their kids? How do they?
We've had a couple people who they've had to pull out of school and do like light homeschooling here. Then we have other families that are completely homeschooled. So this is just an extension of their curriculum.
What's different about this project is that there's no school, there's no centralized, there's no like daycare. Of course, you can hire a nanny and stuff like that. But my gut feeling is here that people have a really like modern view on parenthood, and it's people who really want to spend more time with their kids. We have one family where they both work full-time US time, and they have like one kid, and they're like working until 4 a.m, and they're just trying to make it work because they want to try to be more with their daughter, and they want to travel and stuff like that. So yeah.
Another question that keeps coming in, people are asking, is how much did this cost?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think you want to...
I think we had two numbers in mind, right? One is the deposit you pay into the village. And that is just so we'd have like community funds for events and, meals and stuff. And then we had another budget calculator that was, a typical family of whatever, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we had like different possibilities. And what I remember is the deposit is around $3,000.
Yeah.
And the total budget for like a family would be around $30,000 to $40,000 for the 4 to 5 months.
Yeah.
Remember anything?
Yeah, I think you're like the distinction is that you're actually not paying that much to be on the traveling village, but you have a lot of expenses with your own flights and housing. So you're only paying like $3,000 into the community fund. And the community fund, like we have a very specified budget. It goes to communal meals. Then there's a specific event budget. And we have a little bit of a budget to rent out venues. And then we have calculated, I think it's a $400 buffer per family that goes into like a total buffer for the whole thing if communal meals are more expensive. So it's only $3,000 around that per family. But of course, every family is responsible for their own flights, their own transportation, their own lodging, their own food and stuff like that. So I think there's people traveling on quite different budgets. You have people living in really small places, and then you have families here renting out a whole villa. And it's very different if you're like with one kid or you have 3 bigger kids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, it's a project where it's important to say that we're not trying to get the most money from people. We're not trying to get people to pay in a lot of money for the fund, but we wanted to have an amount that people paid in because that's how you commit to the project. Instead of you just saying, yes, I want to go on this trip, and we didn't have any financial ties. It's a way of commitment to the project. And I think the community fund is working out really, really great right now because we have great budgets to create some amazing meals, communal meals, but we also have a really big pile of money for events. And now people are starting to ask for some of that to arrange stuff. So I think it helps make it more like accessible to create events or smaller trips because we have this communal money to create it.
Can you guys talk about that a little bit? Like the funds, like what does that mean exactly? So you have funds that are left over, people are asking for it.
Yeah. So you have to remember when we started this, we just kind of we Googled stuff, but we had random budgets effectively, right? Like we did some research, but we're not professional money managers or projection analysts.
I don't know about that.
Okay, maybe Andy. But anyway, so we had put numbers together in a spreadsheet plus a buffer. But now, once we're in a location, that's when work groups have to come together and plan what they need to execute on activities. And it's meant to be grassroots. There's no top-down budget. there is a guideline, and then everyone is kind of expected to plan things and then ask for the money they need. So, for example, we had an event where we went to a nearby old, like 10th century Hindu temple complex. And so the events committee created that event, and then they basically asked for the funds just to enable transport. And then everyone had to pay their tickets, but at least transport was covered.
So if there's enough people, then the community funds kind of cover that.
Exactly. So
I think the rule is you can propose something and 10 families have to
upload it.
Yeah. And I think
It's below $40. We're just like plan something for people, put it on the calendar, and then you just get, $40. And you can do what you want with it.
exactly. And I think we have around $4,000 here in Vietnam for just events. So it's quite a lot of money. So people, and most of the things going on is, pretty cheap. It's transportation to somewhere, or people are doing yoga or stuff like that to rent out a small space. And
Can you give an example of like what one of these things might be, like the cacao ceremony or something like that?
Yesterday, one of our members created a cacao ceremony. She had learned about all of this in Guatemala, so she wanted to share with the village. And she used the money for event space, plus some cacao, plus, 3 other things, and worked out really well, because I think we got a really good turnout. It was like, I want to say 15, 20 people.
yeah.
I think that's one of the key things with the budget is it doesn't have to just be used for everyone. It just needs to be a critical mass of people.
Like I know tonight, for example, we found this really cool electric car place for little kids.
Yeah.
And they proposed that. And so the money will go to all the kids who want to attend and ride electric cars.
Yeah, I think like yesterday, the thing, it was so cheap in total to create, but it was much more simple to create with community money instead of, she would either decide, do I have to pay for it, or do I have to ask people for $10 and then, she could create it, request the funds, and then it was an experience for, 15 people. And that was amazing, I think.
Like, I'm going to do small things next week. I have one plan for just a coffee discussion. Comp the coffees, but everyone, like as many people who wants to come.
Wait, to talk about coffee or to talk about anything? Just to drink coffee?
Yeah.
Just drink. I'm coming.
Yeah, you're both. I need to come up with a discussion topic just to make it like a little official, but
Okay.
I just want to get people together. I think the whole idea is conversations, shared experiences. One of the things we saw was like a bunch of people were wearing banana apparel in one of the places we went. So Nitya really liked that and was like, and then we had like an inside joke in this small group when we went to Cham Village. And so now we're trying to, and a bunch of us are staying at this place in Thailand called Banana Beach Resort. So it started off as an inside joke, what would happen if we all wore banana apparel there, and now it got a proposal, it got approved, and so now I think all of us get to pick one piece of banana clothing.
That's a worthy...
You already have a hat, right?
I already have a hat, so maybe I don't need another piece of banana apparel.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing. It's just shared experiences, shared things that the community fund can be used for.
Yeah. Another question people have is, how did people find out about this?
That's a good question too. Like, we just use social media platforms. Like, we don't have my wife and I, we don't have like a big following or anything, but, I think the really fun thing about this project is that it's very niche and you just need like 18, 20 families, and you don't need like 1 million people. It would be very different if you were selling shoes. So it's not a lot of people who has to see it, but you have to find the right people. And I think we made it special and weird enough that, it attracted people. When you go to the website, you pretty fast, this is totally for me or it's totally not for me. So we were just creating the website, spreading it on Twitter, found Kiran, just doing that, and then creating like a newsletter to get people signed up, where we wrote like a monthly mail about like the status and how it's going. And yeah, it's just been going like that.
I remember I was just online one night. It was like midnight, and I was like, "How do I travel alone with a toddler or like a baby at that point?" And I was just like googling, and then all of a sudden this came up, and it was like, "Whoa, this is like perfect."
Yeah.
I think a handful of families found us on Google, but then another handful found us on Facebook groups.
Yeah,
I thought those were good. Like a lot of World Schooling Facebook groups.
Yeah, I did a lot of not like posting, but just discussing the project. So more or less just going through all of these groups, and then there's so many not similar projects, but also community travel projects. So when people were discussing them and what works and not, then I was talking about like what we were doing, because we were learning so much. And compared to a lot of the other projects, I feel that we have a little bit more structure. So we've been very transparent about sharing our documents and our learnings and stuff like that. So just sharing that, and I really wanted it to be a project where we were building in public. So we were just transparent about the whole process, what works and not, and sharing the learnings.
Another question. How did you pick the countries?
We
Actually quite the process.
I remember it involved a spreadsheet.
It was also a spreadsheet, but I think it was really fun because each of us kind of went out, and then I remember we did a pitch at the end of it. So we had a big spreadsheet with a bunch of cities.
Yeah, we had like 2 tabs.
Did you know it was going to be Asia, or
No, no.
It was that.
We were working with the whole world.
Whole world.
No constraints.
What 3 city and we knew it. We knew it was going to be.
We were talking 2 or 3.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was our 1 week we went out, and then we just came up with a list of cities. Right. Anyone could add cities to the list, and then the week after that, we decided to come up with groups of 2 or 3 cities.
Yeah, combinations.
And then pitch it to the whole group and say why this group of cities would work.
I think we had like 50 locations, cities, and then we had like 18, 20 combinations.
No, but I would love to.
But then the combinations...
Maybe we should share it.
Yeah.
I thought,
But then the combinations, we had some time to all research on them, and then we could vote. So there were like 18, 20 combinations, like 2 to 3 places. And a combination could be, there could be 2 of the same, but in opposite directions. So you would travel the other direction. And then you would write, why am I proposing to go in this direction? Oh, it's because the weather is better, or there's a holiday, or, And then I think we wrote it. We gave points, and then we let it be for a few weeks to see if we still had a good gut feeling. And I think we ended up with something that works pretty good, but also pretty safe locations. Safe in not safety, but that it's it's touristic places. There's the logistical things are in place. So I think if you were to do a second or third village, maybe you could do more, not crazy locations, but you could probably go a little further out.
Did everyone pretty much agree on the final locations?
Yeah, I don't think there was strong, because in the end, there's obviously other combinations that people felt strongly about, but this one was one that excited enough all of us, I think. It had something for everyone. And we liked one thing I remember is it was the energy of Hoi An was going to be a little intense because of the holiday, and it's a little bit bigger, and it's a tier 2 city though, outside of Vietnam. So it's not one of the main hubs, but Thailand was going to be really chilled out because everyone was going to be on the beach. And then Kyoto was going to be the big city.
Yeah.
And they each had different energies and different vibes, and that felt nice. And it felt like we were following the seasons really well. So
yeah, it was just super much in line with that. We were trying to make it into a learning process, so just having very different.
Yeah.
And it was not like we were trying to get the biggest success or the most perfect place. We wanted different places so we could learn something. And I think there were probably strong opinions about some places, but then there would be some things that made it fall through. for example, cost, we could go to New Zealand or something, but the total budget would be maybe, that was before we started getting families in, of course. So we were like a bit concerned about the total budget for a trip too.
Yeah, but I didn't want this to be cost prohibitive, people. That obviously that shouldn't be. It's definitely a factor, but we would have excluded too many if we did some. We would have excluded ourselves in some ways if we had like Switzerland, Austria.
Yeah.
So sort of along those lines, how many families applied and how did you choose?
I just checked the numbers, and if you count the free founding families, it's 72 families actually who in total applied. Of course, some of them ghosted us, like they applied in a rush of excitement and then never came back. And then there were a lot of families we actually had initial calls with, and then it fell through because of work or life or stuff like that. So it was 72 families in total that applied.
Yeah, and it was very self-selective, if you think about it, because by the time they got past the first and second interview, we never had to say no, because what we do is, and we were pretty clear about this from the beginning, we kind of reverse sell everyone.
Yeah.
Here's everything that can go wrong.
Yeah.
And you have a whole year to prepare. You have to be on Slack. You have all this work to do. Are you ready? And then the people who find at the very end were still willing to kind of sign their names on a Google Doc. And you're in.
Yeah. That was like super important point, I think, because like we were not trying to sell it. We were actually trying to tell about like, this is going to be a hassle. It's also going to contain difficult things. That's part of it. You should be a part of this because of the learning experience and not just because we're going to a nice beach, And I think that was pretty cool. And we didn't really say like, should we have this family or this family? We tried to make the concept so complex that they will like self-select instead of, we wouldn't like really be in a position where we had to judge people and then decide, is this the best family to have? Like, that would be,
There was no skills requirement. There was no like how you live your life requirement.
Just like the founding families.
Yeah, just like us.
Right. So this is more like on a personal note. I know you decided that 20 families would be a good number.
Yeah.
So, and that was so that if someone felt like they needed to kind of like withdraw a little bit while they're on, it wouldn't affect the village.
Yeah.
And so, personally, have either of you had to withdraw at all for just, for any reason and then kind of come back?
If I just, can make a comment to the 20 families first, because I think it's really difficult to find the exact number. I know there's like some research done in like the perfect village size for like co-housing and stuff like that. But I think another thing that works with 20 families is that the rest of the people's names. We're not too many. Like all of the names. But we're still so many that it's not sensitive. You can branch out. You can do basketball. There's enough people to do that. With withdrawing from the community, I think I have a need for it, but I really haven't had, or maybe I just need like a little bit of downtime. So it's maybe not so much the community. It's just as much with my work and my kids and stuff like that. I need a little bit more alone time and stuff like that. I'm still like totally struggling finding that balance.
You should have come with me that way, dude. Because we
can go again to the monk.
Yeah.
Just you, me, and the monk.
We were thinking of doing this in Thailand, right? Like I've been wanting to do a trip with my kid, just me and her.
Yeah.
Without her mom, because otherwise, she needs a break too. Rita needs a break. And so I would love to give that to her, but it's really hard, like when all of us around. Yeah, I feel like we had a break in a way, that away from the community. And I don't think I needed a break, but it definitely made me feel more energized to go back. That makes sense. Have you felt like you've had a break?
Well, I think going to Hue was such a different place than Hoi An.
Yeah.
It was, especially because we're at the monastery, so it's very quiet. You're not hearing all the motorbikes honking all the time. So in a way, it was a break for my brain to just be like, and just breathe. It's just such a different vibe. So I guess in that way, yeah.
I think I initially planned to take my son on smaller trips for just one night because he's a little bit more to the sensitive side. So before going, I was thinking that it could be a little bit much for him with so many people and kids around and stuff like that. So I was actually planning to do like one small trip per location where we would go to like a hotel or take a small trip. But we haven't had the need yet, but I think we'll probably do it in Thailand.
Like when we travel by ourselves, we only do like 2 to 3 days out per week. And so, but here there's someone is doing something every day. So it is getting like, it's just more than we're used to. And we're not even doing as much as most of like, I know both of y'all have been like in a lot of things. So I definitely feel like a lot of people are going to feel like they need a break and they should take it. I hope that it's really important to take care of yourself so you can show up with other people well. And yeah, it's just hard, I think, because it's so exciting. Yeah. This is an advice to you guys. I'm just saying.
Thanks. It's noted. It's noted.
You guys look fine. Like you, at least you seem like you have good energy. But if you're ever feeling tired, dude, just
thanks.
So if you don't see me for the next week.
Yeah. You're like cheering this.
Okay, so we're going to wrap up pretty soon, but I did want to kind of touch on how decisions are made within the group. I know Michelle, your wife, her sister may be coming out here, and how does that work? Or we talked about funds, how funds are kind of, and visitors also.
Yeah, I think it's important to say that we're still figuring out a lot of these things, that I think the difference between, for example, a community and a business is that there's a lot of things that are not black and white because it's, there's feelings involved and it's people and we're trying to make it work for all. But we do have a structure with consensus decisions. So if it's like bigger decisions that like impact the whole community, change the nature of the project or, then we have to go by consensus, and all are free to propose something for consensus. And it works where you have like 3 ways of voting. You can vote agree, yes, then it's just like, it's fine. You can stand aside. That means maybe you have some personal things where you think, okay, I'm not the biggest supporter of this, but you will not stand in the way of the community doing it. If it's possible, then it would probably not affect you. Let's say someone suggests we should do like volunteer work or something, then you can stand aside and you will not be part of it, but the community will go in that direction. The last one is blocking a suggested decision. And blocking is like a pretty serious matter because if just one family block a suggestion, then we have to drop it.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that. No.
Okay.
But this is the most serious type of decisions, right? And so we've only used this a handful of times already. One where we had to like ratify the handbook. So these were so big that we felt like every single person needs to read and understand and say yes, no, abstain. So you've only done it like a few times, I bet.
Right.
And it's important to say that blocking is only something you can do if you feel that things are going in the wrong direction. It's not because you personally, it's not the perfect thing for you. So it's like if you think, okay, this could be dangerous or it's taking the project in a wrong direction or we're doing something wrong. So that's, yeah.
But like, I think coming at it a different way, because like, this is the most important high visibility decisions we're going to make as a community. I think the other way, the types of stuff we're doing, daily, week, the only other things we're doing, I think are one-on-one decisions, and they need to evolve from conversation to maybe like little Slack posts to maybe discussing in a group, in your working group, in your play group. And then we have these village meetings every 2-3 weeks, or it's once at the beginning, once at the end of each location. If it gets big enough, then it should be brought up in that sphere. But I really think the most important skill of decision making, it's not like a company. There's no leader who's going to ratify a decision. You can't like type up a massive report. We don't have specialists who know what the decision should be and do a proposal. We have a bunch of people who need to learn and grow with these decisions. And so a lot of them are, I talk to you, we come up with a plan to do an event, we write up a proposal. That's a decision. We've made a decision to do something. And so just being really skilled about how many people do I need to make this thing work, I think that is the unit of decision making for the community.
Yeah, and consensus is just something, it's going to be like a very few times we're going to use that. So it's just, we have a lot of things like that in place in like worst case scenarios. So it's like thought about if stuff happens, but we just use the consensus because my wife's sister is just dropping out of her studies and she has the opportunity to actually come and be with us in Thailand for the entire period. So she could, of course, just come to Thailand, live somewhere else, and we could see her a little bit. But it's an opportunity for us and for her to actually include her in the village as an equal village member. I think that would be, she's 21, that would be a huge opportunity for her to see so many people living differently. So we actually use the consensus-based way of taking a decision to ask the whole community. So we proposed it, said this is our thoughts, and it's a way for like all to take the decision together. So maybe that's not a super serious thing, but it's better than it's, someone just taking the decision. It's like we all had like
adding new families midway through the village. That's actually a great example.
Yeah.
It's useful for every single person in the village to know that that's happened and to approve it.
So it's founding families. You don't have more of a say than anyone else.
No.
Certainly no.
We just lit the fire. It's up to everyone else to keep the fire.
Nice. All right, we're going to have to wrap up. But are there any final thoughts you guys have?
We're actually getting pretty close to being a quarter, 25% in the total trip. Like it's in a few days, it's 1 month.
Crazy.
Deals for Thailand. Like we're almost done with Vietnam.
In a few days, we have communal meal number 8, and we're gonna have 30 in total. So it's time is flying.
Yeah, so we're more than 25% of the communal meals.
Yeah,
because we're gonna.
Yeah, in a few days. Yeah.
Well, we will be back next week. And as always, if you listeners have any questions for us, you can follow us on Instagram, leave a comment at traveling_village. And we will talk to you next week.
Yeah, see you in the next one.
See you.